Okay. So, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this 26th Starknet All Core Dev call. We have an important agenda focusing on VO 14.0 integration progress, Cairo native activation, and the revised staking V2 timeline, client updates, and consensus integration. So, let's dive in. So, let's first check in on with Leo for with version O 14.0 integration status. So Leo, in our last call, you mentioned a tentative integration date of April 29th, and I would like to hear about the progress since integration began and how multiple sequencer architecture implementation is going on, and any updated timelines for the testnet deployment. So
Yeah,
the floor is
uh,
yours.
yeah. We actually upgraded the integration 2 days ago, so on the 6th of May. So the upgrade went well. There are still still early in the sense that the chain is still sort of at the beginning. It's still you should expect to be unstable for the upcoming days. So I also wrote in a Slack channel with most of the folks here to it should be best to hold off for now on integration work and probably start next week. Um, Apart from that, mostly looks good. There are some a bunch of stuff here and there to tackle. Apart from that, there's the planned work to be done on integration, some code regarding the mempool, um, and yeah, mostly that and stability. Apart from that, for a timeline to testnet, um, that's still a bit early to say, given also the non-negligible work to be done while on integration. We still aim for sometime early June to be able to
Mhm.
operate testnet, though it's optimistic, but it's good to have a deadline in mind at least. Apart from that, Cairo native is currently on integration. Will probably start a flag also on testnet in the coming days or next week. I think on the upgrade side, this is mostly it. One thing
Mhm.
that I wanted to mention, I wrote in the Full Node Collab channel about a sort of candidate solution that we have in mind to support status received at the level of the RPC. This proposal basically says it's on the node to sort of keep keep a list of transactions that were submitted successfully to it for some amount of time and answer status received on them if they appear in this list but not yet in the block. And if they appear in the block, then return the usual accepted on L2.
Mhm.
So this sort of mimics the very minimal functionality of a mempool, just keeping a
Mhm.
list of stuff that's been submitted there. Um, so we're still gathering some thoughts on this, but it shouldn't be too much work on the node clients. But yeah, it would be like should be part
Mhm.
of the more general work of integrating with O14. So likely gonna start next week.
Okay. And do we have any performance metrics from the initial testing that we have done till now, and any broader like rollout timeline
For performance,
for Cairo native
for
performance?
Karen,
Yes.
um, the issue with Cairo native is that you won't have true numbers on a chain with so little activity like integration. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like Cairo native shines when you run through extremely heavy contracts or very, very big transactions. Currently, there is not much of that kind of code that's deployed on integration and most likely also on testnet.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. Um, so the I haven't checked how it's been doing because I'm really trying to wait for when the numbers will be more meaningful. But yeah, during testing,
Mm-hmm.
according to this behavior, we've seen like extremely variable numbers from twice as fast to 15 times as fast. Very much depending on the type of the computation load and how much
Mm-hmm.
context switching happens between the blockifier running the code and the x86 that's actually running. Um, yeah,
So I mean, like, if could you give us an example of what type of computational contract that you are targeting to? Like you said, like we don't have that kind of complicated contracts right now. So maybe
mhm.
if you can make us aware, like exactly what you're looking for. Maybe someone from the community can like hop in.
Um, for example, like heavy, like okay, sophisticated logics of DeFi, for example, um, or games particularly, I would say. Um, for things that you're only reading a couple of storage slots and you don't do basically any computation, you write to another storage slot, the speedup is going to be much less. Um,
Hmm. Okay,
yeah.
okay, understand. So thanks, Leo. And does anyone have any questions regarding O 14.0 integration and carbonated? Okay, so we can move on to the next topic on the agenda. So we have covered two topics till now, and the third one is staking V2 launch update. So for the staking V2 launch update, we have learned that the staking V2 upgrade has been delayed by 2 to 3 weeks from the original May 13th date. So the delay is due to several factors, with main one being Nimbora's sunsetted protocol not being upgrade ready. So I would like to invite Nathan from the next call onwards as to give us more brief updates on staking V2. So yeah, so uh, now we can move on to the next topic on our agenda, which is client updates. But I don't see Christian here, so maybe we can start with Rodrigo. So Rodrigo, I would like to hear about Juno's 14.4 release status and any feedback on the block building capability and how your staking V2 validator implementation is progressing with the revised timeline.
Yes. So before we are on right now 0.4.4 release candidate 0 or 1. We have is ready. There's one small bug that we want to implement. We go with full release. It's just about encoding. Um, so which is very minimal. It's like when it's nil, the fields are not being encoding. So we just want them to be encoded even when nil, especially um, for Starknet Rust. So that's it. Regarding block building capabilities, we have block building capability right now. It's still experimental. We still have to try it yet, so we don't suggest anyone to use it. But it's still there if anyone wants to try it out. Um,
Mm,
yeah. Uh, on the other regards, the other thing is consensus. We're good on that. We're implementing it. We're meeting our internal roadmaps. So yeah. Um, and finally, the staking V2 validator is being implemented. We are adding for it monitoring. There has already been an open PR from a contributor. that will merge. We're checking that everything is good, that we can check it in Grafana, that it looks nice. And that once it's done, we'll make another release, which includes better login, a bit of performance here and there. So yeah, that's on our side.
Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo. And if now Nathan, can you share the progress on the O14.4 RPC update and results of your performance optimization efforts and the status of Madara core integration?
Hello, Nathan isn't here today. If you want, I can
Okay.
take up for him.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
continue.
certainly. So regarding the 0.14.0 RPC upgrade, we haven't begun that yet. We're currently moving towards 0.13.5 compatibility. We've opened a tracking issue for 14.0, but it's not currently in the works. But we're moving towards there as quick as we can. In terms of performance optimization results, we've been optimizing the mempool pipeline, getting higher CPU utilization. Concretely, what that means for node operators who might want to use Madara is you can expect higher transaction per seconds with the current setup. And finally, in terms of core integration status, we've recently migrated the Starknet Hive repo to the Madara Alliance, and we're starting to integrate that into the Madara CI to have some really quite robust RPC testing. We really encourage all the other client teams as well, if they can, to check out this repo. It was built by Vsauce and is very agnostic towards any kind of node. So it'd be really cool if in the future this can serve as like a common benchmark, not really benchmark, but like common point for RPC robustness in the Start ecosystem. So contributions are welcome on that front. And I think that covers all the points.
Yeah. And also, Trantorian, if you could share this link to the repo in the chat here so that everyone can have access to it.
Yeah, of course. Maybe I should post it in the Slack. It feels like it'll be less lost there.
Yeah. Perfect. So thank you, Trantorian, for the update. And we can move on to the next topic on our agenda, which is Malachite consensus integration. So Adi, you previously mentioned slower consensus finalization in heterogeneous networks. So could you update us on your investigation into this issue and the status of your DevNet testing?
Yeah. So on the interrupt tests, we did notice that there is slower block building when the network of sequencers is mixed or heterogeneous. We tried a bunch of things since then, adding, removing, playing with latency, with consensus timeouts. I was looking through the PRs, and we also tried, we disabled value sync. That proved to be part of the issue. We're also mixing different combinations or thresholds of how many sequencers are of one kind or the other kind. We don't have the root diagnosis where we could say this is it. I think it may be a combination of multiple factors and potentially some bugs as well. We did find a couple of them, and we added some. We fixed some of them. I think I'll get to that in a second. Also, I guess I could just talk about general bug fixing. We did 2 releases since then. So just to wrap up, interrupt tests and slowness, we don't have the root diagnosis, but we made some progress and we found some things that we fixed. But I'm not confident saying that we found exactly the point that causes this. We did some releases. So on kind of other threads of work we did, we're trying to get into having regular release cadence. We did the 0.10 release and the 0.20 release. They included the various small fixes, nothing too big, but for instance, supporting the fact that the application does not know ahead of time a certain validator set, because the library, the consensus library, needs to know the validator set to be able to validate some messages. So if a validator gets a message that it's 3 heights from now, or something like that, then the validator needs to be able to validate that message. And to do that, it needs to know what is the validator set from that height. And then it asks the application, but maybe the application doesn't know it yet. So there are such corner cases that we found through the interoperability tests, and we started supporting them. We did some write-ahead log improvements, and I think those are the biggest ones. On DevNet, the other thing that you mentioned, Ayush, was the DevNet. Yeah, on Malachite side, we do have a draft proposal. It's not a DevNet yet. I feel like before we even get to DevNet, we were thinking with the engineers that there is actually a preliminary effort that I would call generally hardening or network adversarial testing. It's not just adversarial; it's also deploying the network in a larger scale, like up to 100 nodes. And that I think should actually be a precursor to DevNet. We do have a draft on how we plan to test for Malachite specifically for such conditions, and then that could be used to also run the DevNet, because all of the scripts, all of the metric management, kind of validator set management, all of those need to be built anyway, and we can reuse them for DevNet. So I can share the draft for this network hardening exercise that we do plan to do for Malachite, and many of those, like I said, can be used for DevNet as well. And I do believe that this should be a precursor to the DevNet. For the DevNet itself, yeah, I'm on the fence whether it should be coordinated among the three teams, Madara, Pathfinder, and Malachite, or we should be the ones kind of managing this entirely. I think it will depend on the capacity of the other two teams. And it's also a bit premature to talk about the DevNet until integration starts in earnest with Madara and Pathfinder. So since that integration is still kind of not obviously progressing at the pace that we can estimate when it's going to be finished, it's a bit early to say about what the DevNet should look like. But for the hardening exercise, we can do it kind of entirely from Malachite side. And I think that gives some rationale for what I just said.
Okay. And how's the integration with 14.0, like multi-sequencer architecture, like progressing right now for you?
It's not really a question that I could answer. I think it depends on Mother and Pathfinder teams, how they first need to integrate, first need to finish integration with Malachite before we can talk about that, I think. Unless I'm
Okay.
missing the question.
So I basically wanted to understand, like, what is the feedback that you get from these teams when this integration is happening? And according to you, what do you feel like is like a proper, I would say, timeline, or what is their feedback on this process? So are they very supportive, or like what is happening?
We got some feedback on unclear documentation of APIs or complexity of APIs, and we built some supporting architectural documents that describe the intended use of those APIs. We have some testing frameworks as well that can be used, and some prototypes that can be used to understand. There's also the mock sequencer that we wrote. The challenge, I believe, it comes from we do not know what the architecture of Mother and Pathfinder is. Like, we don't have engineers that are Mother engineers or Pathfinder engineers. So therefore, we cannot really kind of do that work ourselves, kind of empathize so much with the difficulty that they're facing. So we're mostly relying on the feedback that we get directly, which is what I just mentioned, the feedback SoundCloud.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Adi.
Yep.
And the next point is actually P2P network status, but since Shark is not present,
Can I make
okay,
it?
yeah, Rodrigo.
Can I make it for Adi? In the DevNet you're planning, is there a possibility? Is just for Malachite at the beginning, I guess, and we are planning to do the same with Juno when we have our own consensus implemented, to have a bunch.
Cool.
I'm not going to use Malachite directly, it's going to use ours implemented in Go. What if at some point we could, have a DevNet of both Malachite and Juno and make sure they are compatible? And I think we also will need, for full compatibility, the Starknet node as well, the sequencers, with
Right.
and try the three consensus in real life.
Yes, actually, the first, there is an even other step that we could do with Juno. It is to run the same interoperability test that we're doing today between the mock sequencer we wrote on top of Malachite with the Starknet sequencer and with the Juno sequencer. I think that we can do that today, basically. As soon as the Juno sequencer is ready, we can do that ourselves. And then add Mother and Pathfinder into the mix as well later on.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Okay, can I schedule a meeting for you maybe for next week and have a join between the meetings with Malachite and the Juno team? Would it make sense?
Yep. Yeah. Let's schedule on Slack because I will be partly out of office next week, but the engineers will be available and they know a lot more than I do. So.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. So we have covered almost all the things on the agenda, and if anyone has anything to add or any topic to discuss. Okay, so yeah, okay. So thank you everyone for your participation in today's call. These discussions are especially valuable as we approach the significant milestone with 0.14.0 and the revised staking V2 launch. So our next meeting will be on Thursday, May 22nd at the same time, 11 a.m. UTC. So if you have any suggestions for the agenda, please reach out to me directly and have a great day, everyone.
Bye.